It's Monday, and it's a tale of two Kyles here on TSR this morning. I'm Kyle, and so is that, of course, that's Kyle Glaser. Kyle, thanks for joining us today. The Blue Jays have dropped another series. Man, it's hard to really do analysis on these types of things when this team has been plagued by one injury after another. They're just piling up, George Springer being the latest.
Yeah, look, it's been 15 games. It hasn't been pretty, but we have to remember it's a long season. And you're right, the Blue Jays have just been absolutely decimated by injuries. Four starting pitchers on the IL with Trey Savage, Shane Bieber, Jose Barrios, and of course, Cody Ponce suffering that very unfortunate knee injury. Now you add George Springer, Alejandro Kirk. As ugly as it's been for the Blue Jays, the saving grace is these guys are all going to come back at some point except for Ponce. So it's hard to judge this team right now because, yes, it's been bad, but they're nowhere near full strength. So I wouldn't press the panic button by any means.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the message I'm repeating to myself, I guess, at this point, because, you look on the weekend, Eric Lauer had one bad inning. It was one horrible inning, and then things got shut down after that. The bullpen was able to shut down Minnesota after Scherzer had a pretty shaky start. But let's talk about Max Scherzer. Where is he at right now? Because he has not been particularly good over his last two starts.
Look, Max Scherzer is one of the greatest pitchers of his generation. He will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is someone all of us will remember watching and will appreciate. He's 41 years old. He'll be 42 in July. He had an ERA over 5 last year. This is just what happens. Father time is undefeated. This is what we see. Guys, their velocities drop. They aren't as durable. There's more injuries that pop up. At this point in his career, if you're the Blue Jays, all you can really do is hope Max Scherzer can give you an occasional solid 5-inning, 3-run kind of start, expecting this to be the Max Scherzer who was throwing no-hitters and striking out 20 batters and holding 95, 96 into the 9th inning. That's just not a fair expectation for him. So realistically, if you're the Blue Jays now, you kind of just need him to be a league average starter. And can he do that? We'll see, because the early returns have not been great. And it's not just this year. Last year was not very effective either.
No, and that's a completely fair assessment. And if you look back at this Minnesota series, the starting pitchers were Patrick Corbin, Eric Lauer, and Max Scherzer. Definitely not what you had penciled in preseason. And Patrick Corbin came out there and he had a very shaky first inning, but then it became somewhat of a serviceable start from him. He gave them a few innings, which is really, he's been brought in to hopefully give them 4 or 5 innings as they see their way through this injury bug.
And that's all you can really do, right? Again, Patrick Corbin has had a great career. He gave all he had to the Nationals during that 2019 World Series run and really has not been the same since. So at this point, the Blue Jays are just trying to keep their head above water, get 4 or 5 decent innings from their starters, let the bullpen take it, and hopefully their injured starters will come back sooner rather than later, because this isn't sustainable into June or July. But if they can just hold on till early to mid-May, they'll be okay.
And then they'll likely be having George Springer show back up in the lineup. Alejandro Kirk will be on the verge of coming back in the lineup, and things should turn. They're just hanging on to the sides of the ship in a stormy sea right now as best they can. Well, let's talk about some positives. It appears as though Dalton Varsho's bat has woken up. He had an excellent series against Minnesota, doing a lot of things at the plate that he had the expectations of upping his game this offseason because his spring training was great, and now we are seeing that his bat is lit up, and that has to be a good sign for this Jays team.
No question about it. Seeing him have 2 doubles and 2 homers over this 3-game series. Look, yes, he got off to a slow start, and anytime that happens, people are going to start getting worried. It's April. A lot of hitters are still getting their timing down. This is the time of year when pitchers are overwhelming hitters all across the league, and that's consistent every year. Cold weather, pick your reason, right? So anytime a guy gets off to a slow start, especially when we're talking about 10, 15 games, there's no reason to panic. And Dalton Varsho got off to that slow start. Now he's starting a little bit. No question about it. Having the best version of Dalton Varsho offensively, that will help the Blue Jays significantly. Realistically, yes, this offense, they're 25th in runs scored. I'm not really worried about this offense. Guys are going to heat up. They're going to get some key guys back healthy. The concern is more just on the starting pitching side. And if the guys on the IL start having lingering injuries, or they come back for a start or two and have to go back on the IL, that's where the concern for this team is. Dalton Varsho, Kazuma Okamoto, Springer was off to a slow start before he got injured. I'm not really worried about them. They'll be fine.
And yeah, like, do you evaluate someone like Okamoto differently because he's come over from Japan and this is his first big league season? Does he get a little bit more of a leash as he adjusts to the constant higher velocities in Major League Baseball and just being in such a bigger market and with so much attention on him now? I guess he gets a bit more leeway for that, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's always an adjustment period anytime you're coming over from Asia, whether it's Japan or Korea. At the same time, Kazuma Okamoto has a good swing. He has a mature approach. He has bat speed. He has power. He has everything he needs to be successful against Major League pitching. And we've seen that when he's faced Major League arms in international play throughout his time in Japan. So, again, I really see this more as, hey, it's been 15 games. Every single hitter in Major League Baseball, Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, pick your favorite guy, will have a 10 to 15 game stretch at some point during the season where they slump a little bit. For some guys, it just happens right out the chute. Again, I'm really not worried about Okamoto. Just looking again at his swing, his approach, all his ability in the box. When we look up at the end of the year, he'll have had a more than fine season for the Jays offensively. I really wouldn't read too much into this.
I want to give you a list of a few new faces to the Blue Jays Major League roster right now and get your early impressions of them, starting with Jesus Sanchez.
Yeah, Jesus Sanchez is a really interesting player, right? He has always had power. He's always had this great athleticism, but contact has been an issue. That was true back when he was a prospect with the Rays. We saw that happen in Houston. If he could just make a little more contact, there is no reason he couldn't be a consistent 20 to 25 home run threat from the left side. Early on, the returns have been pretty good. Again, long season. Do I expect him to hit 270 over the course of 162 games? No. But if he can live in that 240, 250 range and keep his strikeouts down, that's still going to be a good player. Again, Jesus Sanchez's upside is probably, call it 255, 25 homers, but that's a good player. If he can just maintain some of what we're seeing early, the Blue Jays will be in really, really good shape.
And how about Brandon Valenzuela? Excuse me, Valenzuela. He has impressed. To me, the thing I've seen with him mostly is he's got the mindset of a long service major league catcher. He's really using the ABS system well. He's handling the pitchers well, and he's such a young man. Let's talk about him a little.
Yeah, dating back to his days in the Padres farm system, Brandon Valenzuela has impressed defensively consistently. And yes, it's the physical aspects, it's the receiving, it's the arm strength, it's the mobility behind the plate. But on top of it, it has been that mental component, his ability to temper his pitchers. He has always been a guy, in the words of scouts I talked to, who just quote unquote looked right behind the plate. This is what catchers were supposed to look like. And that dates back to when he was in Double-A. So the fact that he is excelling defensively, both with the physical and mental parts of the game, it's right in line with what he's been really since he was a teenage prospect. The thing with him has always been his offense, right? It's kind of average-ish bat speed. He's never been a big thumper. But again, when you're such a good defensive catcher, the offensive bar to clear is really, really low. So we saw him hit his first career home run. That was a great moment for him. If he can just be decent with the bat, I'm talking 220, 10 homers, with what he provides defensively, he's going to be a really, really, really good catcher who will be one of the better backups in baseball once Alejandro Kirk gets back.
So the true bad news with this team right now is they currently sit last in the AL East. But the good news is they're only 2 games out of first because the Yankees' red hot start has completely cooled off. They're only I think they're only a game above 500 right now, as are the Orioles. So how much are the Jays going to benefit? Like, they're the ones that are the massively injured team right now, and they're only 2 games out, and there should be a bit of a silver lining to take from that. Slow starts all around.
No question about it. Again, at this point, all the Jays have to do is just tread water. If we look up in mid-May and they're only a game or 2 under 500 and they're within, 4 or 5 games, the division leader, they will be in a great spot. The Orioles have some big flaws and big injuries. The Rays, again, they're a tremendous organization. Right now, just where they are talent-wise, they don't have enough. And the Red Sox have some real problems. The only team that I look at in the AL East and say, yeah, that's a good team, is the Yankees. And yes, their offense has cooled off, but they're paid over the course of the season. So if you're the Blue Jays, again, the mindset right now is stay as close to 500 as you can. Don't let, someone else start running away with it. And then when you get back to full strength, hopefully by mid-May, you'll be in a great position to really take off.
And now the Jays head to Milwaukee. Things aren't going to get any easier. That's a good Milwaukee team. Off to kind of a meh start themselves, but that's a very good Milwaukee team, and the Jays are in pretty deep, and at least they're back to the top of their pitching rotation.
Yeah, look, the Brewers are always a good team. They always pitch well. They have one of the better lineups they've had during this recent run of success. So again, it will be a tough series. Expecting the Blue Jays to go in and earn a sweep. Look, if they do it, awesome. But again, I really want everyone to kind of modify their expectations. If the Blue Jays can just not get swept on the road and then win their home series, take 2 or 3 here or there, that's really what's to be expected from them right now. And if they do that, they'll be more than fine. What they can't have happen is they go get swept on the road and then come home and start losing home series.
Kyle Glaser, you are the voice of reason that we need here in Toronto right now, putting some calm through this storm, because it is very much a storm. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Toronto Sports Rush.
My pleasure. Anytime.